The storm had barely broken when Elias Hawthorne heard the words that shattered the last piece of his quiet obedience. "You will marry her, Elias. The arrangement is sealed. A duke does not run from duty." His mother's voice was sharp enough to cut stone, yet beneath it trembled something close to fear. Elias stood in the grand hallway of Hawthorne Estate, rain hammering the windows like restless fists. "I am not running," he said, though his chest felt tight. "I just need to see the truth for myself." "By abandoning your title? By sneaking out like a commoner?" She stepped closer, searching his face. "What are you afraid of, my son?" He swallowed. "That no one will ever love me without it." But he didn't say that. Instead, Elias whispered, "I will return when I am certain I am marrying someone who wants me, not Hawthorne wealth." His mother's expression softened for a flicker, then hardened again. "You are a duke. You cannot hide from the world." "Watch me," he murmured. And with that, he turned, cloak soaked by the storm, and walked away from the only life he had ever known. By nightfall, he was no longer Duke Elias Hawthorne. His ring, crest, and signet were locked inside a chest beneath and in bed. His hair was tied back plainly. His coat was worn. His new name, Eli, stuck to his tongue like coarse dust. He spent 2 days blending into the markets of Avonshire, watching the Vale family from afar, memorizing their patterns. The mother sharp, the eldest daughter proud, and the quiet stepsister trailing behind like a shadow. He didn't expect their lives to collide so violently. It happened in the market, the moment fate snapped its fingers. The Vale family's carriage had barely stopped when a group of boys darted forward, snatching a velvet pouch from the eldest daughter's hand. "Thieves! Someone stop them!" she shrieked. The crowd froze. Eli didn't. Before he could think twice, he sprinted after the boys, boots slamming into muddy cobblestone. They darted through crates, weaving through vendors. He leapt over a cart of apples, grabbed the nearest thief by the collar, and yanked him back. The pouch slipped from the boy's hand. Elias caught it before it hit the ground. By the time he returned to the carriage, breath burning in his lungs, the Vale women were wide-eyed. You're quite fast," the mother said, her tone calculating. The eldest daughter batted her lashes. "My hero." But the one who spoke with sincerity was the stepsister. "Thank you," she whispered. She had soft eyes. Downcast. Quiet. As if she wasn't used to being heard. "What is your name?" the mother asked. "Eli, madam." "And what do you do, Eli?" He hesitated. "Whatever is needed." The mother exchanged a glance with her daughter. "We are in need of a servant. Strong hands. Obedient. Discreet. Are you searching for work?" He bowed his head. "Yes, madam." "Good. You will begin immediately." Just like that, he was taken in. Not as a guest. Not as a noble. But as their servant. And that was exactly what he needed. If you were forced into an arranged marriage, would you obey or run? Comment your thoughts. The manor rose from the fog like a warning. Its tall windows glowed with candlelight, but the halls inside felt colder than stone. Eli followed a maid who whispered instructions too quickly. "Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't look directly at Lady Mirabelle. And keep out of Lady Seraphina's way. Her mother dislikes when servants linger near her." Elias frowned. "Why?" The maid shivered. "Because she has no power, and powerless people make Lady Evangeline nervous." He stored that quietly. What he didn't expect was to see Seraphina moments later, kneeling on the hallway floor, scrubbing the marble with her sleeves rolled back, hair falling over her face. "Seraphina!" her mother snapped from the stairs. "You missed a spot. Do it again." Seraphina lowered her head. "Yes, mother." Elias had seen cruelty before. But never so casual. So everyday. Moments later, Seraphina bumped straight into him, literally, her bucket tipping, water splashing across his boots. Oh goodness, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, she stammered, scrambling to wipe his shoes with her hands. He knelt quickly. Please, don't. It's only water. She froze. No servant had ever told her please. Their eyes met for the first time. Something quiet passed between them. Then her mother's voice snapped the moment apart. Serafina! Stop embarrassing yourself. Serafina jerked back, whispering, Forgive me, Eli. And she hurried away. Elias watched her go, chest tight. Something wasn't right here. And he needed to know what. Night settled over the manor like a thick blanket. Eli moved through the halls with a tray in hand, delivering tea outside Lady Mirabelle's drawing room. He didn't intend to linger. But the voices inside froze him to the core. He's rich, mother. Disgustingly rich. That is the point, dear. And once I'm Duchess, once the wedding is done, we take the estate, clean it dry, and leave him with nothing. A laugh. Cold. Delighted. Elias's blood turned to ice. But what about his feelings? Mirabelle giggled. Men don't marry for feelings. And dukes don't expect loyalty. They expect obedience. We'll give him neither. Then, softer. He will never see it coming. Elias stood motionless in the hallway, the tray trembling in his hands. They were planning to destroy him. Not just embarrass him. Ruin him. Completely. And he could not reveal himself. Not yet. Not until he knew the full plan, and the truth of the quiet stepsister whose eyes held both warning and kindness. He stepped back into the shadows. He would stay. He would watch. He would uncover everything. The Duke had disappeared. Eli the servant had work to do. What would you have done if you overheard someone planning to ruin your entire life? Comment your thoughts. Lady Laura slammed the door of her chamber so hard the mirrors trembled. I will marry him, take his fortune, and leave him with nothing, she hissed to her maid, unaware that the disguised Duke, now called Elias, stood frozen in the hallway, a silver tray trembling in his grip. The words struck him like a blade between the ribs. He staggered back, breath stolen, heart splitting in two. So it's true. She and her mother mean to gut me alive. His vision blurred. He set the tray down quietly, forcing himself not to react, not to storm in and tear the mask off the life he'd carefully constructed. He needed proof. He needed calm. And most of all, he needed to understand why. Inside the chamber, Laura continued, voice dripping with entitlement. Mother says the Duke is soft. Men like him fall easily. And once the estate is signed over, will vanish into France. Her mother's smug tone followed. A Dracot deserves nothing less than absolute security. Marriage is simply the tool. Do not get sentimental. Elias clenched his jaw until pain shot through his temple. But another voice cut through the darkness, soft, tremoring. Laura, this is wicked, whispered the stepsister, Marianne. He's done nothing to you. Why destroy him? Laura scoffed. Because the world destroys women like us first if we don't strike before it does. And stop pretending to be righteous. No one listens to you. Marianne fell silent, and Elias felt something twist inside him. Not pity. Recognition. A second later he heard hurried footsteps, Marianne rushing out. He barely had time to straighten before she collided with his chest. She gasped. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's fine, he said quickly, lowering his gaze as a servant should. But her eyes lingered on his face, searching, aching. Are you well? She whispered. He nodded, though his heart was breaking. Shouldn't you be inside with your family, my lady? She looked away. They do not consider me part of it. Not really. And she fled down the hall, shoulders shaking. Elias watched her disappear, the echo of her misery following like smoke. He had come here to uncover the truth about his fiancée. He had not expected to find a truth even crueler. That evening, the house prepared for Laura's formal dinner. Servants rushed through the halls carrying linens and candles. Elias kept close to corners, listening. And remember, Laura's mother instructed sharply, if the Duke seems hesitant, you cry. Tears make men sign anything. She chuckled darkly. We'll be wealthy before spring. Marianne, standing behind them, tried once more. Mother, please. Don't do this. Laura crossed her arms. Oh, spare us your conscience. You're not marrying him. You don't get a voice. Her mother snapped, say one more word, and I'll have you banned from appearing at the wedding entirely. Marianne flinched like she'd been struck. Elias felt his blood boil, but stayed silent. Revenge gained in haste always cost double. Later that night, he found Marianne in the garden alone, sitting on the stone bench beneath the old pear tree. The moon washed her face pale, like she was carved from sadness. He approached quietly. My lady? She startled. Oh, Elias. You shouldn't be out here. They'll scold you again. I don't mind, he said softly. You looked like you needed company. Her eyes filled too quickly, like she'd been holding the tears all day. Do you ever feel trapped? She whispered. Like the world decided your fate without asking you? Yes, he said, and it was the truest thing he'd spoken since he'd arrived. She hugged her arms. Laura and Mother, they treat marriage like warfare. But I always hoped for kindness. For someone who sees me. Her voice broke. But I'm invisible in that house. You are not invisible, he murmured. Marianne breathed in sharply, eyes turning to him, gentle, vulnerable, searching him like he was the only person who ever answered when she spoke. He looked away before she could see too deep. He was here for justice. Vengeance. Strategy. Not this ache. Not this girl with soft eyes and a quiet soul. 2 days later, the stepsister tried to slip into the Duke's estate, or what she believed was just the outer gate, to pass on a warning. Elias watched from a window as the guards refused her harshly. Please, just let me speak to him for a moment. It is about his safety. No admittance. Go home. But he must know, he must. The guard shoved her back, and she nearly fell. Elias's hands fisted. She was trying to protect him, even against her own family. He hadn't expected loyalty like that, from anyone. And certainly not from her. The next week was the engagement ceremony rehearsal. Laura twirled in her pale blue gown, admiring herself in every reflective surface. I will look exquisite beside him. The perfect duchess. Marianne stood behind her, eyes empty. Elias attended in servant uniform, pretending to adjust flowers, pretending not to hear Laura whisper to her mother. Once he signs the property transfer, I'll ask for a honeymoon in Bath. And from there? A quick ship to France. Good girl, her mother said. He swallowed fire. But when he turned, his gaze met Marianne's. She looked at him like she knew he'd hurt, like she was silently begging him to save himself. And with a strike of lightning clarity, he realized he would save her too. That night, Marianne found him polishing silverware in the kitchen. You heard them, she whispered shakily. He didn't deny it. You must leave, she insisted, gripping his arm. They will destroy you. My mother is ruthless, Laura even more so. Please, please go before it's too late. He stared at her hand on his sleeve. No noblewoman had touched him with such sincerity in years. I can't leave, he said softly. Why? Her voice broke. They'll hurt you. Because you are here, he wanted to say. Instead, because some things must be faced. She shook her head, tears spilling. You don't understand. You're too good for this house. He brushed a tear from her cheek before he could stop himself. She froze. He froze. The world froze. Marianne, he breathed. Her lips parted, but footsteps echoed down the corridor, and she stepped back quickly, wiping her eyes. Laura's voice rang out. Elias! Fetch my earrings. He bowed. Marianne slipped away like moonlight fading. He watched her go with something dangerous blooming in his chest. Not strategy. Not vengeance. Not duty. But the unmistakable beginning of love. The scream shattered the morning calm. Elias bolted upright from his mop, heart pounding. From the open kitchen window, he saw the chaos unfolding in the market square, Laura's carriage surrounded by rough men, hands reaching for bags, coins scattering like frightened birds. Without thinking, he sprinted into the street, servant uniform clinging to him, heart hammering like war drums. "Step back," he shouted, voice low but commanding. The thieves turned, startled, but advanced anyway. One lunged toward Laura's mother, brandishing a knife. Elias met him mid-stride, knocking the weapon aside, feeling the cold steel scrape his arm. Pain exploded, but he gritted his teeth. With quick, precise movements, he disarmed the men, grabbing scattered coins and parcels, tossing them back into the carriage. Laura clung to her mother, white-knuckled, eyes wide. Who are you?" she stammered, voice trembling with a mix of fear and awe. Elias bowed slightly, keeping his head down. "Just someone trying to help." Her mother's gaze flickered between shock and gratitude. You saved us." "How?" "Enough talking," he muttered, bending to recover the last bag. Every moment counted. More thieves lingered in the alleys, their eyes full of greed and anger. By the time the carriage rattled back onto the main road, all stolen goods recovered, the family's expressions softened. Laura's mother clutched her pearls, flushed. "I owe you a debt," she said, voice shaky. "Who are you?" Elias wiped his hands on his apron. "I need work," he admitted quietly, almost ashamed. "I can serve in your household. As a maid, or anything else. I need employment." Laura's mother glanced at her daughter, whose smile had a brittle edge, then back at him. You have courage," she said slowly. "Very well. Come to the manor. We'll see if your skills suit our household." Elias's chest tightened. Victory tasted bitter. He bowed again, voice steady despite the adrenaline still thrumming in his veins. "Thank you, my lady." The manor loomed against the horizon, its gray stone walls shrouded in mist. Elias followed the carriage, heart hammering with the strange mixture of fear and anticipation. His mind raced. This is how I infiltrate them. This is how I learn the truth. Inside, the grand hall smelled of wax polish and old wood. Servants hustled past him, eyes wary. Laura's mother handed him a keyring, motioning toward the servant quarters. "You start tonight," she said crisply. "And keep to your duties." "Yes, my lady," he replied, voice steady, though the plan inside him churned. They think they are hiring a servant. They do not know the wolf is already inside. Elias unpacked his few belongings, a simple change of clothes, a notebook, a letter from his estate. He stared at the plain walls, thinking of the masquerade he would maintain. Every smile he gave the family, every chore he performed, was a step closer to uncovering Laura's true intentions. His first day was a flurry of tasks. Polishing silver, arranging linens, dusting chandeliers, each action observed the family. Laura strutted through the hall, humming lightly, tossing orders at him with playful cruelty. "Don't drop that," she said, eyes gleaming with mockery. Elias bowed, hiding his disdain. "Yes, my lady," he thought. "And I will watch every move you make." In the kitchen, he caught sight of Marianne, quietly sweeping. She glanced at him, her eyes asking something he could not yet answer. Her lips pressed into a thin line, a warning perhaps, a hope. He gave a subtle nod, acknowledging her silently. The day blurred into evening. The family gathered for dinner, and Elias served from the shadows, noting gestures, expressions, and unguarded whispers. Laura leaned close to her mother, whispering, "Soon, everything will be ours. He trusts me already." Elias froze for a heartbeat, teeth clenching. So he is nothing to her but a mark. A prize to be claimed. Marianne slipped past him, barely noticed. She pressed a hand briefly against his arm, soft, fleeting. "Stay careful," she murmured. And then she was gone, leaving Elias with a tension that wound around his chest like iron chains. Later, the Duke in disguise walked the halls alone, polishing silver under dim candlelight. The manor had become a theater of secrets, each room a stage for deception. He paused by the grand mirror in the corridor. His reflection, masked by servant attire, reminded him of the dual life he led. He could not afford a misstep. A faint whisper carried from upstairs. Elias froze, listening. The words, soft but sharp, were unmistakable. I will marry him, take his fortune, and leave him with nothing. Laura's voice, confident, cruel, dripping with calculated ambition. The dagger in his chest twisted again. He had hoped for love, loyalty, perhaps even warmth. Instead, betrayal loomed in every syllable. He clenched his fists. I will see this through. I will uncover every secret. And justice will be mine. From behind a corner, Marianne's small, trembling figure appeared again. She had witnessed the whispering too, perhaps realizing Elias had been listening all along. Their eyes met, and in that silent exchange, an understanding passed. She would help him, whether he asked or not. The stepsister's courage struck him in a way he had not anticipated. Not with admiration, not with infatuation, yet both crept into his chest slowly, painfully. He had to protect her, even while navigating the trap set by her sister and mother. Elias straightened, gripping the tray tighter. Tomorrow, the game begins. Tomorrow, I move deeper. And I will not falter. The candle flickered, casting long shadows across the hall, shadows that seemed to mimic the twisted schemes within the house. And yet, amid darkness, a single point of light remained, Marianne's quiet bravery. He exhaled slowly. I see you, Marianne. And I will not let you be crushed. The night stretched endlessly, full of whispers and plots, each one a thread Elias would need to unravel. But one truth anchored him: some secrets could not remain hidden, and some hearts, once recognized, could not be ignored. The sound of a slap echoed through the hall. Elias froze mid-step, heart hammering, ears straining. Laura had struck Marianne across the cheek, and the faint metallic taste of anger and fear rose in his throat. How dare she? He thought, rage bubbling beneath the calm exterior he maintained as a servant. He waited in the shadows, breathing slowly, watching Laura toss her hand dramatically toward her mother. She dared speak to the Duke? Laura hissed, eyes glittering with venom. Marianne pressed a hand to her reddened cheek, trembling, yet refusing to cry. I only tried to warn him, she whispered, her voice breaking under the weight of injustice. Elias clenched his fists, every muscle taut. He wanted to rush forward, reveal himself, crush Laura's arrogance with one word. But he didn't. Patience. The plan is everything. That evening, he found Marianne in the garden, kneeling to sweep fallen leaves. The moonlight caught her hair, silvered strands glinting softly like stars. She looked up, startled, thinking she was alone. You shouldn't have come out here, she said, voice tight. Mother will punish me if she finds me talking to a servant. I'm here, Elias said gently, keeping his distance. Because someone needs to see the truth. Marianne's eyes widened. Do you understand? I do, he murmured. More than anyone else. And I will protect you, whether you believe it or not. Her hand brushed against the broom again, but this time, she lingered, trembling not from fear, but from something more profound. You're not like them, she said softly. Not like my sister, not like mother. You care. A flicker of warmth stirred in Elias's chest. He wanted desperately to reach for her, to lift her chin, to show her that she was more than overlooked. But timing, he reminded himself. The truth must emerge when the world watches. The days passed, each one layering tension like heavy velvet over the manor. Elias worked silently, observing every whispered conversation, every sharp glance, every manipulation. Laura flaunted her charm in front of the staff, laughing while Marianne endured tasks that should have belonged to her sister. Yet in stolen moments, Elias and Marianne spoke. A dropped cup in the kitchen, a shared glance while dusting the same shelf, an accidental brush of hands during laundry, each small interaction sent a current through him he could not deny. The girl's kindness was a light in a house suffocating under greed and ambition. "Why do you let them treat you this way?" he asked one evening as they polished silver side by side. Marianne shrugged, eyes downcast. "I have no choice. At least if I keep my head down, they might not notice me." "You're more than invisible," Elias said, voice low, heart aching. "I see you. I've seen you since the first day." She glanced up at him, a faint blush warming her cheeks. "But they won't. No one does." He wanted to tell her everything, to strip away the lie of his disguise and tell her she was safe. But he only shook his head, masking the swirl of emotions with a careful smile. "One day," he said. "One day, they'll have no choice but to see you." Tension in the household thickened. Laura's mother began to suspect that Elias lingered too long near Marianne, too often caught her eyes in moments of shared understanding. Punishments became harsher. Marianne was sent to scrub floors well past midnight, sent on errands in pouring rain, left to carry burdens no sister should bear. Elias watched silently from the shadows, every pang of guilt a dagger through his chest. "I cannot act yet," he reminded himself. "The wedding is coming, and when the moment is right, justice will strike." But frustration gnawed at him. Every insult Marianne endured, every glance of pity cast by the household staff, reminded him of how little the world recognized true worth. If only they knew the heart that beats beneath this quiet, overlooked girl. One evening, Elias found Marianne sitting on the steps behind the manor, knees drawn to her chest, eyes filled with tears. He approached carefully, kneeling beside her. "They will not see you for who you are," she whispered, voice breaking. "No matter what I do, they only notice my sister." Elias placed a hand over hers. "Then let them not notice," he said firmly. "Because I do. And when the time comes, the world will see what I see." She looked at him, hope flickering in the depths of her despair. You really mean that?" "I do," he said, voice softening. "And I will prove it." Their hands lingered together, a subtle bond forming, a promise unspoken yet fiercely felt. The night air was cold, but neither felt it. The warmth of connection, of recognition, of shared purpose, enveloped them in a bubble of fragile security. Meanwhile, Laura's laughter rang through the halls, full of triumph and cruelty. She flaunted her upcoming wedding, unaware that Elias had seen every whispered plot, every sly glance between her and her mother. Every day, she played the part of the triumphant daughter. But Elias knew differently. He had seen Marianne's courage, her honesty, her quiet strength. And each day, his resolve hardened. When the wedding came, when every eye was fixed on Laura's schemes, Elias would ensure the truth surfaced, and he would claim the heart he had long admired in secret. The garden shadows stretched long and thin, echoing the tension in his chest. Every corner of the manor whispered secrets. Every glance, every gesture, every word became a thread he would weave into the plan. And in the midst of it all, Marianne remained unbroken, her small but steady defiance a beacon. Elias could not look away. She will be seen. She will be recognized. And she will have what is rightfully hers, with me at her side. Even as he moved through the hallways, serving, observing, blending, he knew the stakes had never been higher. The slow burn of attraction, trust, and quiet love deepened. Every shared glance, every brush of hands, every whispered word became a promise neither dared speak aloud, yet both felt in the marrow of their bones. The game was set. The players in place. And the man in disguise knew one truth above all: when the storm broke, no one would walk away unchanged. Marianne's scream tore through the night air, sharp and raw, echoing against the stone walls of the manor. Elias froze mid-step, heart in his throat. The sound wasn't faint. It was desperation, fear, the kind that could shatter a soul. He sprinted toward the source, cloaked in the shadows of the servants' quarters, keeping his disguise flawless. Not yet, not here. Patience, he reminded himself, but the pang of helplessness was immediate and fierce. He found her in the study, kneeling by a scattered pile of papers. Her mother's sharp voice rang through the room, scolding, belittling, stripping Marianne of dignity in every word. Financial ledgers, plans for the upcoming wedding, all revealed. Elias's eyes narrowed as he realized the enormity of the deception. Laura's mother had orchestrated a full blueprint to seize his estate. This isn't just greed. It's meticulous cruelty. You were supposed to hand these to the Duke? Her mother snapped, voice venomous. How dare you meddle with matters far above your station? Marianne's hands shook, gripping the edges of the papers. I only wanted to protect the family? The mother interrupted, sneering. No. To protect yourself. You are nothing, Marianne. You will never matter. Elias's pulse surged. He stepped closer, unseen, heart thrumming with fury and concern. She will matter. She has always mattered, and she doesn't even know it. Marianne looked up, tears streaking her cheeks. Her voice was a whisper, fragile and desperate. If only someone would see me, the real me. Elias swallowed hard, breath catching in his chest. I see you. He knelt just beyond the candlelight, keeping his voice low but firm. I do. I've seen you from the beginning. Every kindness, every moment of courage you've hidden. She flinched, startled, peering into the darkness. You mean it? I do, he said, heart pounding. And I will ensure that your bravery, your honesty, does not go unnoticed. But you must trust me. Not yet. The moment must come when the world cannot deny the truth. Marianne's eyes widened, a glimmer of hope fighting the despair. The Duke, he would never notice me. You've underestimated the eyes that matter, Elias murmured, tension coiling tight in his chest. When the time comes, your name will echo louder than theirs ever could. Elias examined the scattered documents carefully, his mind racing. Ledger entries, letters, hidden clauses, all evidence of Laura's and her mother's carefully constructed scheme. Every page was proof. Every line, a dagger aimed at him, meant to strip him of dignity, wealth, and control. He glanced at Marianne, kneeling quietly amidst the chaos, and a fierce protectiveness surged within him. This girl, overlooked by all, will not break. Not on my watch. He moved closer, brushing a loose strand of hair from her tear-streaked face. Stand. Look at me, he commanded gently. She obeyed, eyes wide, fear and hope mingling. You are not invisible. You will not be forgotten. And when they believe they've won, they will realize the truth too late. Marianne blinked, voice trembling. But, what if it's too late already? Then we make it right, Elias said firmly, gripping her hands. Together, we make it right. The next days passed in a tense rhythm. Elias worked among the servants, observing every interaction, cataloging every lie, every cruel jest, every sly glance between Laura and her mother. Marianne continued her quiet rebellion, small acts of defiance that drew punishment yet strengthened her resolve. Elias noticed the subtle changes in her demeanor. Her eyes, once downcast and fearful, now sparkled with flickers of courage. Every shared glance between them became a silent conversation, a growing bond of trust and understanding. The tension in the house thickened like fog, and Elias reveled in the knowledge that their shared secret, the plan to expose the deception, gave him power, not over her, but alongside her. One evening, as the servants carried trays of tea and biscuits, Elias lingered near Marianne, pretending to tidy the silverware. She glanced at him, lips pressed together in a faint, almost imperceptible smile. You always watch, she whispered, voice soft. Even when no one else does. I see everything, he replied, his tone equally quiet, a secret shared. And I will act when the moment is right. A tremor ran through her, the subtle acknowledgement of a connection she had long yearned for but never dared admit. Their hands brushed lightly over a tray, and the spark of their growing attraction, barely restrained, set the air humming between them. The wedding announcement arrived the following morning, formal and public, plastered across the manor. Laura and her mother beamed, believing their victory inevitable. The servants whispered in hushed tones, casting cautious glances at Marianne, whose heart thudded painfully in her chest. Elias studied her reaction, the subtle quiver of her lips, the determination in her eyes. She will endure. She will survive. And when the truth comes, she will rise with it. Later that night, Elias found her in the moonlit garden once more, sitting silently on the stone bench, hands clasped together. "The wedding is set," she murmured, voice tinged with fear. "And I feel powerless." He knelt beside her, the weight of his secret burning in his chest. "You are not powerless," he said, voice low, urgent. "You are brave, honest, and unseen by everyone except those who matter. And I see you." Her eyes widened, a mixture of disbelief and awe. "You see me?" "I do," he whispered, fingers brushing hers. "And soon, everyone will see you too. You must trust me." She nodded, trembling, hope and fear warring in her chest. And in that fragile moment, under the soft glow of the moon, an unspoken promise was made: the truth would come, justice would prevail, and in the shadows of deceit, a love had begun to bloom. The storm of lies, greed, and ambition had not yet broken, but Elias knew that when the day of reckoning came, nothing would ever be the same. The slamming of the heavy wooden door echoed like a gunshot through the hallways of Vale Manor. Marianne stumbled back, clutching a folded note in her hands. Her mother's icy glare burned into her as she tore the paper apart, shredding Elias's carefully hidden message before her eyes. "Do you think you can meddle where you do not belong?" her mother hissed, teeth clenched. "You are nothing. You will always be nothing." Marianne sank to her knees, shards of paper fluttering around her like wounded birds. The note had been her only lifeline, the only attempt to warn Elias, the only proof that she had tried to act. Now it was gone. Helplessness squeezed her chest, making every breath a struggle. I've failed," she whispered, the words barely audible. From the shadows, Elias watched, fists clenched so tight his knuckles whitened. Every instinct screamed at him to reveal himself, to run to her side and shield her from the cruelty. But he restrained himself. "Not yet. The timing must be perfect. Patience, Elias." The weight of his hidden identity pressed against him like a physical force, suffocating, unbearable, but necessary. The next morning brought no relief. Marianne was forced to carry trays of tea, polish silver, and tend to the most menial chores, all under the scrutiny of her mother and Laura. Every mistake was magnified, every small act of resistance punished harshly. Laura walked through the halls with a smug sense of superiority, laughing at Marianne's misfortune, unaware of the sharp, quiet eyes watching her from beneath the servant's hood. Elias followed silently, noting every whisper, every glance, every cruel interaction. The tension in the house was a living thing, pressing on everyone, but it weighed heaviest on Marianne. Yet, in her quiet suffering, he saw resilience. Each time she bent under punishment but continued, each time she risked a glance toward him despite the danger, she drew his admiration and his heart in ways he had never anticipated. During the mid-morning chores, a small accident spilled a tray of water across the marble floor. The matron screamed, blaming Marianne. Servants watched nervously, some avoiding her gaze, some sympathetic, but powerless. Elias stepped forward quickly, pretending to be the one who caused the mishap. "It was my fault," he said firmly, voice carrying authority despite his servant guise. The matron's fury turned toward him, but he stood his ground, a flicker of defiance shining through. Marianne's eyes met his for a fleeting moment, gratitude and awe mingling in her gaze. Her pulse quickened, yet she quickly turned away, trying to remain invisible. Elias clenched his jaw. "She deserves better. I will protect her. Somehow." Evenings in the manor were no reprieve. The household dinners were tense, each meal a battle of smiles and veiled hostility. Laura and her mother spoke in half-lies and hidden threats, while Marianne sat quietly, serving without acknowledgement. Elias, still in disguise, ensured her water glass was full, subtly placing plates closer to her reach, small acts of rebellion that went unnoticed by all but her. That night, as the household slept under a heavy blanket of false propriety, Marianne crept into the garden, seeking solace beneath the moonlight. Elias followed silently, keeping to the shadows. He watched her curl into herself on the stone bench, tears glistening in the silver glow. The sight ignited something raw inside him, rage at the injustice, grief at her suffering, and a deepening need to protect her. He knelt beside her, careful not to startle her. "Marianne," he whispered, voice low but firm. "Do not think yourself powerless. You are the strongest person here, stronger than anyone can see." She flinched, startled by the closeness, yet did not pull away. "I have nothing," she admitted, voice quivering. "No one believes me. No one sees me. Even the Duke, he would never." "You are wrong," Elias interrupted gently. "I see you. And soon, everyone will see you too." Her eyes widened, disbelief warring with hope. You mean that?" "I do," he said softly. "But you must trust me." "Not yet. Patience is the weapon we wield. And I will not fail you." The days dragged into a blur of punishment, hidden observations, and quiet acts of defiance. Marianne attempted once more to leave messages, only to have them intercepted by her mother's watchful gaze. Each thwarted attempt left her more despondent, her heart sinking deeper into fear and despair. Yet, Elias observed every move, cataloging the household's behaviors, mapping Laura's arrogance and her mother's manipulations. He began leaving small signs of support, a cup of tea placed near her desk, a shawl left on her chair when she froze outside in the cold, a soft nod when she passed in the hall. Each gesture was invisible to the others but a lifeline to her. Each gesture was a promise. One night, Laura strutted past, mocking Marianne's trembling hands as she polished silver. "Do try harder, sister," she sneered, lips curled with cruel amusement. "You wouldn't want the Duke to see you like this, would you?" Marianne bit her lip, holding back tears. Elias clenched his fists, knuckles pressing into his palms. "He will know the truth. He will see what you've endured." But the darkest moment came when Marianne, forced to announce the wedding plans in front of the staff, faltered, words catching in her throat. Laura smirked, her mother's eyes glinting with triumph. Marianne turned to Elias instinctively, seeking reassurance, but he only nodded subtly, reminding her to endure. She obeyed, swallowing her fear, but internally the despair threatened to consume her entirely. That night, Elias retreated to his quarters, heart heavy. "The longer I wait, the more she suffers. But revealing myself now risks everything. I must be patient. I must endure this torment with her, unseen but always present." He closed his eyes, the weight of their shared secrets pressing on him, his resolve hardening. The wedding loomed, the stakes higher than ever, but he swore silently, "She will not be broken. She will not be invisible. And when the moment comes, justice and love will prevail." The garden was silent, except for the rustle of leaves stirred by the wind and the occasional drip of water from the recent rain. Marianne sat on the cold stone bench, shoulders hunched, hands clenched tightly in her lap. Her chest felt as if it were weighed down by every insult, every command, every humiliation she had endured in the manor over the past weeks. She stared at the darkened paths ahead, eyes hollow, body tense. Then a shadow fell across her. "Marianne," a voice whispered, low, controlled, yet trembling with urgency. Her heart skipped violently. She didn't need to look up to know who it was. Elias knelt before her, hood pulled low, but there was no mistaking the sharp intensity in his gaze. The servant facade had been discarded, replaced with the man she had glimpsed in fleeting moments, the one who saw her as more than invisible. "You," her voice broke midword, uncertainty mingling with hope. She wanted to recoil, to ask why he had kept his identity hidden for so long, but the words stuck in her throat. "Sure," he lifted a gloved hand gently, brushing her shoulder in a comforting motion. "Do not speak. I need you to listen first. Everything will change soon. But you must trust me." Her eyes searched his, looking for any sign of deceit. There was none, only unwavering intensity, determination, and the faintest tremor of emotion she had never seen in anyone before. It was raw, undeniable. Her chest tightened. You are the Duke?" Elias nodded, barely audibly. "Yes. And I need you to hear everything, now. This," he gestured vaguely to the manor looming in the distance, "all of it, the lies, the plans, the cruelty, you've seen only the surface. But I've been watching, learning, planning. And I cannot do this without you. Her pulse raced. She wanted to protest, to say it was impossible, to argue that the man she had admired in the shadows was a stranger now revealed. But every instinct, every moment spent enduring alone, told her that she could trust him. That she must. I don't know if I can, she began, voice trembling. You can, Elias interrupted, his tone firm but gentle, his gloved hand still steady on hers. You are braver than anyone realizes. The things they've done to you, the way they've tried to erase you, it only makes your courage more powerful. And you are not alone anymore. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes. For so long, she had been invisible, ignored, punished. Now, for the first time, she felt seen. Truly seen. The sensation was overwhelming, suffocating in its intensity. I trust you, she whispered, barely audible, but the weight of those words made the air between them feel electric. Elias's jaw tightened, a surge of relief and fury mingling within him. Good. Because the time has come. The wedding approaches, and everything must unfold perfectly. But we cannot rush. Not yet. We must let them reveal themselves fully, so no one can deny the truth. She shivered, part from the chill of the night and part from the intensity of his presence. And if they try to hurt me before then? Then I will stop them, he said simply, with a quiet certainty that left no room for doubt. Every insult, every humiliation, they will be paid back in the light of the truth. You will not suffer in vain, Marianne. You will not be invisible ever again. A moment of silence passed, heavy with unspoken emotions. The wind rustled through the leaves above, whispering as if in agreement, and the faint scent of jasmine carried from the manor gardens. It was a fragile peace, a brief reprieve before the storm that would inevitably come. Elias leaned closer, voice dropping to a near whisper, but intense enough to make her heart stutter. And when that moment comes, when the world expects you to step aside, you will step forward. You will be seen. And I will be there. Always. Marianne swallowed hard, chest rising and falling rapidly. She had lived in fear, had lived invisible, had lived under the weight of others' cruelty. Yet here, now, she felt something she had not allowed herself to feel in years, hope. And with hope came courage. I will, she said firmly, surprising herself with the strength in her own voice. I will do it. I trust you, and I will stand with you. Elias's eyes softened ever so slightly, but the fire remained. Good. Because our moment is coming, and we must be ready. They will not know what hit them, but the world will see the truth. And you will finally be free. They sat together in silence, two figures cloaked in shadow, yet bound by the unspoken promise of trust and devotion. Elias felt the weight of the plan settle in his chest, the stakes higher than ever, but for the first time, he did not feel alone. Marianne's quiet strength bolstered him, giving him a renewed sense of purpose. At last, he stood, taking her hand gently and helping her to her feet. Rest now. We have little time, but every move must be deliberate. Patience, Marianne. Patience will be our ally. She nodded, gripping his hand with a fierce determination she had never known she possessed. The fear was still there, but it was tempered with resolve. She would face whatever came next. She would no longer hide. Elias's gaze lingered on her, scanning every line of her face, memorizing every detail. When the wedding comes, he murmured, almost to himself, everything will change. And you will be the one who triumphs. Not them. You. Marianne's lips parted, and she inhaled sharply, the weight of those words sinking into her bones. A tiny spark of exhilaration flared within her, mingled with fear, anticipation, and something that felt dangerously like love. For the first time, she believed it. For the first time, she felt ready. And Elias felt it too, the rising certainty that the woman he had admired from the shadows was not only brave but extraordinary. They parted that night with a silent understanding. No words were necessary. Every glance, every touch, every heartbeat conveyed the promise they both carried. The storm was coming, but together, they would survive it. Together, they would triumph. The grand hall of Vale Manor was alight with hundreds of candles, their golden flames flickering across the vaulted ceilings, bouncing off polished marble floors, and casting shadows over the sea of expectant faces. The air hummed with anticipation, whispers of admiration, curiosity, and barely contained envy. Servants flitted about like shadows, adjusting silks and arranging bouquets, while the orchestra played a delicate prelude that carried through the hall. Elias Hawthorne stood at the edge of the room, heart pounding beneath the tailored coat that disguised his wealth and title. The Duke's composure was always controlled, measured, but tonight, the tension coiled tightly in his chest. His eyes scanned the crowd, noting the smug satisfaction on the face of his bride-to-be, Laura, and the poised, calculating expression of her mother, Countess Aldera. Every instinct screamed that this was the moment when their true natures would be revealed. The chandeliers above glimmered like captive stars. Guests murmured amongst themselves, some sneering, some curious, all unaware of the drama that was about to explode before their eyes. Elias's gaze shifted, landing finally on Marianne. She stood behind Laura, hands nervously folded in front of her, chest rising and falling in shallow, anxious breaths. She looked smaller than usual beneath the towering magnificence of the hall, yet he saw the strength radiating quietly from her posture. She was ready. The organist began the bridal march, and the crowd rose in unison. Elias felt his pulse quicken, a cold fire running through his veins. He could see the delicate lace of Laura's gown glinting under the lights, her smile practiced, perfect, hiding the venom beneath. Her mother's eyes sparkled with anticipation, the cruel satisfaction of a plan poised to succeed. But Elias also saw Marianne, standing silently, a quiet beacon in the chaos of wealth and deception. The doors opened, and Laura glided forward, flanked by her attendants. Every step was calculated, elegant, like a predator approaching its prey. Elias's jaw clenched. He had endured weeks of listening, watching, and observing, biding his time to ensure that when this moment came, the truth could not be denied. Every insult Marianne had suffered, every whispered slight, would be vindicated in front of everyone. The wedding guests turned as Laura approached, eyes gleaming with fascination and admiration. The bride-to-be curtsied, her laughter like the chime of crystal, hiding the sharp edge of ambition. Elias, disguised as a guest, maintained his calm, though the fire within him threatened to spill over. He could feel every heartbeat in his chest, every breath in the silent moments before the vows. And then the priest cleared his throat, calling the ceremony to order. "Dearly beloved," he began, voice solemn, "we are gathered here today." The words were a blur. Elias's attention was entirely on the players in this deadly game of social theater. Laura's mother had arranged every detail, counting on appearances, on the respect of the gathered nobility to shield her treachery. But Elias knew what they didn't. The documents he had obtained, hidden safely in the folds of his coat, would ensure that every lie, every deception, every act of cruelty would be exposed. As the priest continued, Laura extended her hand toward Elias, toward the man everyone believed to be merely a guest, though Elias had already positioned himself in a role to observe and protect Marianne. The rehearsed smiles, the graceful gestures, all intended to manipulate perception, failed to hide the tension in the air. Something was about to shift. Something unstoppable was coming. Elias stepped forward at just the right moment, his movements deliberate, a calculated display of courage. He approached Laura as if he were the intended suitor, offering his arm. She accepted with a practiced smile, unaware of the storm gathering behind her, unaware that her schemes were about to unravel. Marianne's breath caught. She had been instructed to stand quietly, to observe, to wait. But when Elias's gaze flicked to her, and she saw the intensity there, the unspoken promise, the reassurance that she was safe, a shiver ran down her spine. He was still the Duke, the man who had observed her suffering, who had witnessed her bravery, who had chosen to trust her with his secret. The priest began the vows, and Laura recited hers with precise articulation, her eyes gleaming with ambition and triumph. But Elias's attention was elsewhere. He had memorized every step, every gesture, every moment that would allow him to reveal the truth at the peak of tension. And now, the moment had arrived. "You may now kiss the bride," the priest announced, voice echoing through the hall. Time seemed to slow. Every heartbeat thundered in Elias's ears. He moved deliberately, stepping past Laura, ignoring her startled gasp and the flustered confusion of the attendants. Gasps rippled through the hall. Whispers became murmurs of shock as he extended his hand toward Marianne. The world narrowed to two figures, Elias and Marianne. Her eyes widened, disbelief and anticipation mixing in a cocktail of emotion. She had always been invisible, dismissed, overlooked, yet here she stood, the center of the Duke's attention, the focus of his unwavering gaze. "Marianne," Elias said, his voice low but resonant, carrying through the charged silence, "this is your moment. You are the one I choose. The one with a heart of truth and courage. The one who deserves to stand here, visible, in the light." Tears sprang to Marianne's eyes. Her lips parted, and she could barely breathe, yet every fear and doubt that had weighed her down for years seemed to evaporate under the force of his declaration. She stepped forward, hands trembling, and took his in hers. And then, with deliberate grace, Elias pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was soft, reverent, a declaration of truth, love, and justice. A collective gasp surged through the hall, followed by stunned silence. Countess Aldera's hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide with horror. Laura shrank back, her perfectly rehearsed composure crumbling under the weight of public exposure. The Duke pulled back, his forehead resting briefly against Marianne's, and the room seemed to hold its breath. The documents he had secretly handed to trusted allies among the guests were now being examined, proving every scheme, every financial manipulation, every act of cruelty. Witnesses began to speak, voices rising, confirming the evidence, unraveling the lies that had been carefully constructed over years. Laura's mother, face pale, realized the inevitability of defeat. Her power, her influence, her schemes, all crumbling before the eyes of the very society she had sought to manipulate. She attempted to intervene, to regain control, but the hall had shifted irrevocably. The moral tide had turned. Elias held Marianne's hands tightly, his eyes scanning hers for any hint of fear or doubt. There was none. Only courage, only trust, only the quiet power of a woman who had endured so much yet remained unbroken. He felt a surge of pride and tenderness, knowing that she had chosen to stand with him, that she had allowed herself to be seen, and that together they had turned the tables on deception. The guests murmured, some applauding, others in shock, but the Duke remained focused solely on Marianne. "You are extraordinary," he whispered, voice breaking slightly with emotion. "I have watched you endure, and now the world sees what I always knew. Your heart is unshakable." Marianne's lips curved into a smile, faint but radiant, and she felt the weight of years of invisibility lift from her shoulders. "And I have trusted you," she whispered, voice soft but steady. "I always did." Elias's gaze softened, but the fire of determination still burned in his eyes. "Then let us finish this," he said, turning to face the shocked assembly, "not as servants or schemers, not as pretenders or manipulators, but as those who choose truth, love, and justice." The Duke's declaration sent ripples through the hall. Witnesses stepped forward, corroborating Marianne's accounts, exposing Laura's deceit, and solidifying Elias's position not just as a man of wealth, but as one of honor. The Countess's attempts to defend herself fell flat, and Laura's attempts at charm dissolved into shame. Elias took a step back, allowing Marianne to stand fully before the crowd. He lifted her hand, placing a ceremonial ring upon her finger, the symbol of union not born from manipulation, but from trust, love, and truth. The hall erupted into applause, cheers, and even a few tears from those moved by the unfolding justice. Marianne's heart pounded. She could hardly believe it. After years of suffering and silence, after months of observing the world's cruelty, she had emerged victorious, seen, and loved. And the man who had guided her, who had protected her, who had chosen her above all else, was now hers in every sense that mattered. Elias lowered his forehead to hers once more. "The world will not forget this," he whispered. "And neither will I. You are the heart of this house, the soul that cannot be broken, and the woman I will love forever." The Countess, now humiliated beyond measure, was escorted from the hall with a mixture of dignity and disgrace. Laura, silenced and disbelieving, was left to confront the consequences of her ambition and betrayal. And the crowd, once mere spectators of wealth and social spectacle, had witnessed a transformation far more profound, the triumph of integrity, courage, and genuine love. Marianne squeezed Elias's hands, strength flowing between them. "I never imagined," she said softly, "that I would be seen. Not like this. Not by anyone, ever." Elias smiled, his heart swelling with a mixture of pride, relief, and longing. You were always visible to me, he said. Even when no one else could see you. And now the world must see you as I have always seen you. The orchestra began to play a jubilant tune, and the hall erupted in celebration. Guests moved forward, offering congratulations, astonishment, and admiration. But for Elias and Marianne, the noise of the crowd faded, replaced by the quiet, unwavering certainty of the bond they shared. Hand in hand, they walked down the aisle together, finally free of the weight of deception, cruelty, and expectation. Every step was a declaration. They had chosen each other, chosen truth, chosen love above all else. And in that moment, as candlelight danced across their faces, the shadows of the past melted away. The storm had passed. The house of lies had crumbled. And Elias and Marianne, once separated by class, fear, and secrecy, stood together, unbroken, triumphant, and profoundly, irrevocably in love. The first light of dawn filtered through the tall windows of Vale Manor, scattering gold across the marble floors and spilling warmth into the grand hall that had seen both betrayal and triumph. Marianne awoke in the soft folds of her wedding gown, the memory of last night still sharp, vivid, her heart still racing from the shock, the triumph, the unshakable sense of justice finally done. Elias was already awake, standing at the window, gloved hands resting lightly on the sill. The early morning breeze ruffled the edges of his coat as he gazed out over the gardens, thoughtful, watchful, yet relaxed in a way he had never allowed himself before. Marianne felt a surge of love and awe. This was the Duke she had known in secret, the man who had protected her, believed in her, and now, in a way that neither of them could have imagined, was hers entirely. She rose quietly and approached him. Every step felt like a heartbeat stretched out in slow motion, a moment suspended in time. Elias turned at the sound of her soft footsteps, and when his eyes met hers, the intensity of the moment caught in her chest. "Good morning," he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. "Good morning," she replied, her lips curving into a shy smile. I still can't believe it. That it's all really over." Elias stepped closer, his presence commanding yet tender. "It is over," he said firmly, but his eyes softened as he took her hands in his. "Everything that needed to be exposed has been. And yet, what matters now is what we choose to do with what remains." Marianne swallowed hard, the warmth of his gaze enveloping her like a shield against the long years of invisibility and hardship. "I never imagined anyone would see me," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not like this, not like you do." Elias's thumb brushed gently across her knuckles. "I always have," he said. "Even when the world didn't. Even when you thought you were invisible, I saw every act of courage, every silent struggle. You are remarkable, Marianne. And now, everyone else must see it too." The sound of footsteps drew their attention. The household staff, once critical and dismissive, now approached with quiet reverence. They bowed, curtsied, and offered congratulations, their faces a mixture of awe and apology. The women who had once ignored or dismissed Marianne now looked upon her with admiration, a stark contrast to the shadows of cruelty that had dominated her life. Elias straightened, letting go of her hands for a moment to survey the staff. "See how quickly the world can change when truth is allowed to shine," he said softly. Marianne's eyes sparkled with laughter and disbelief. "Yes, but it doesn't feel like the world I knew. It feels like ours." Moments later, the Countess Aldera arrived, escorted by a distant relative and accompanied by a meek, defeated Laura. Both women's faces betrayed the lingering sting of public humiliation. The Countess's once proud posture sagged under the weight of exposure. Laura's eyes flickered between Marianne and Elias, a mixture of envy, regret, and disbelief etched into her features. Elias held up a hand, signaling calm. "The past has been settled," he said evenly, voice carrying both authority and fairness. "Let the consequences follow naturally. But Marianne, let us focus on what comes next. The life we will build, the family we will lead, and the love we will nurture." Marianne nodded, feeling a rush of power and security like never before. "Yes," she said softly, gripping his hand again. Together. The Duke smiled, leaning down to press a gentle kiss to her forehead. Together, he echoed. Every obstacle, every plot, every moment of doubt seemed to dissipate in the warmth of that embrace. By midday, the manor was alive with quiet celebrations. Guests from the wedding still lingered, offering congratulations, laughter, and astonished whispers about the unexpected turn of events. Marianne, once overlooked and invisible, walked among them with Elias at her side, her head held high, every step a testament to her resilience and courage. In the gardens, Elias led her toward the fountain where the morning sunlight caught the ripples of water, scattering rainbows across the manicured paths. "I want you to see this," he said, gesturing to the glimmering water. "A reminder that even after storms, there is beauty and clarity." Marianne let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. "It feels surreal," she admitted. "All of it. The wedding, the exposure, the truth of everything." "Surreal," Elias agreed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "But true. Every bit of it. And from here, we can shape what comes next. No deceit, no lies, no hiding. Only honesty, and only us." She smiled, feeling the tension of years fall from her shoulders like petals in the wind. "I've never felt so seen, so known." "And you always will be," Elias whispered, drawing her into a slow, lingering embrace. The world outside the walls of Vale Manor seemed to fade, leaving only the warmth, the trust, and the love that had grown through months of secrecy, danger, and quiet observation. Hours later, the household gathered for the formal announcement of Marianne's new title as Duchess. Applause filled the halls, servants bowed deeply, and the nobility who had once doubted her looked on with respect. Marianne felt a mixture of humility and pride, finally recognized, finally valued. Elias stood beside her, a silent pillar of strength, his hand never leaving hers. "You have earned every piece of this," he said softly, voice full of awe. "The woman who endured, who loved, who risked everything quietly, that is the woman I chose, and will continue to choose." Marianne's eyes glistened, and she rested her head against his shoulder. "I never thought I'd have this," she whispered. "But now, I have you. And I have me." Elias pressed a kiss to the crown of her head, then stepped back slightly, letting the light catch her face. "And together, we will face everything the world throws at us, with truth and courage as our guides. Nothing can diminish what we've built, what we've chosen." The Countess and Laura, now seated at a respectful distance, could only watch as the young Duchess and her Duke moved through the hall with grace, dignity, and a quiet, undeniable power. Their schemes had failed, but Marianne's resilience and Elias's unwavering loyalty had prevailed, creating a legacy that would echo through Vale Manor for years to come. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Elias and Marianne walked the gardens alone. The air smelled faintly of jasmine and rain-soaked earth, the colors of dusk painting the sky in golds and pinks. Elias held Marianne close, feeling the steady rhythm of her heart against his chest. "You once said no one saw you," he murmured, voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. "I see you, Marianne. I always will." "I see you too," she whispered back, a smile breaking across her face. "Always." And in that quiet moment, amid the soft glow of twilight and the whispering of leaves, the two of them stood together, free, united, and profoundly, irrevocably in love. The past had been vanquished. The schemes exposed. And Vale Manor, once a place of secrecy and cruelty, had become a home of trust, love, and unshakable hope. Hand in hand, Elias and Marianne walked toward the future, their hearts aligned, ready to face the world, not as Duke and stepsister, not as master and servant, but as equals, as partners, as the undeniable force of truth and love in a house once shadowed by lies. The sun disappeared completely beyond the horizon, leaving the manor bathed in twilight. And for the first time in her life, Marianne felt truly visible, truly loved, and truly free.